Before we get into the video of today, there's a news message from the rules team that is associated with this release. So today we released a beta version of the 2022 balance patch. As always, the balance patch tries to tackle imbalances in the game, both external and internal, and the changes are heavily based in data. We employ a system that decreases price of underused entries and increases on overused entries, with sizes of price changes and thresholds for what is considered underused and overused, dependent on the estimated external power of the army and the estimated internal balance. This has allowed us to have a structured approach to balance with limited subjectivity. Hopefully this ensures an ever-improving balance to the game. It's all further explained in more detail in the link that you can see on this slide. In addition to the data-driven price changes, we have made a few tweaks to broader balance problems. The first one is magic, and in particular the balance between wizard apprentices, adepts and masters. A price shift has happened where apprentices are cheaper, masters are more expensive. And in parallel with this, a couple of paths have seen tweaks to their number 1 spells, or order of spells changed, made to further encourage the usage of apprentices. To avoid apprentices becoming too useful as chaff, many of the cheaper wizard mounts have gotten a slight price increase. The other bigger change made is some tweaks to selected armies' category systems. The armies that struggle the most in the current meta have seen some increases in the categories. So Saurian Ancients and Sylvan Elves have received a 5% increase in their shooting or avoidance category. And for armies where we struggle with keeping armies partially sidestepping intended limitations, we have reworked the category system, so both Warriors of the Dark Gods and the Highborn Elves have seen their monster categories replaced by a counter system, which is similar to Infernal Dwarf's shooting limit. This allows us to have better control of which combinations can be allowed without the risk of huge effects on possible builds from small price changes. Please note that this release is a beta version of the balance patch. This means that none of the changes are set in stone. Every army community will be getting the opportunity to raise concerns on the changes or lack of changes. More information on the exact format of this will be communicated shortly. A final version that will be used for 2022 will be released in February. You may have noticed that non-core game products like supplements are missing from this update. During the spring of 2022 there will be a dedicated supplement balance patch. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This time we're going to talk about the annual balance update. So there's going to be some changes to the Arcane Compendium, and there's also going to be some changes to all the different point costs in the armies. So 9th Age has developed into a system where we have one update per year for all the books. And that is also the opportunity for points to change, and otherwise there's not a lot of flexibility throughout the year. So basically this is going to set the meta for the upcoming year, and then well, some choices will get better, others will get a bit worse, and I think it's really neat that we do this once a year, because basically it enables some new plays to develop. And I think the goal of 9th Age, the teams, is in the end to make everything balanced against each other, more or less. However, that is a bit of a fantasy, I think. So you have to be balanced to the extent of having everything be kind of playable. But it's also natural that some choices will remain some more fluffy choices and some others will be more competitive. With that short intro, we'll just get into the list. So we'll first look at the Arcane Compendium non-price changes, so everything design-wise that is changing in the Arcane Compendium. First of all, we have the Ranger's Boots. This is going to be standard height infantry models on foot only. I believe it didn't specify infantry before, so that's just a minor adjustment. Rod of Battle is going to 18-inch range, so it's actually useful maybe. And then the Lightning Van Braces, you change the spell to Hand of Heaven. I think this is a bit of a bigger one. Because it used to be 2d6 strength 3 with AP 0, and that basically was a magic missile that was just definitely worse than the others available. And now with it being Hand of Heaven, it is actually usable for a lot of armies at the same time. You don't get the boosted version, however, so it's going to be d6 hits at strength d6 with AP 2, I believe. So it's a nice spell. I'm always jealous when I'm playing against it. However, usually one of these d6s doesn't go that well, so it's either like 6 strength 3 hits, or it's going to be like 2 strengths, 5 hits or so. So it's better than the lightning vambraces, but better than it used to be. Essence of a Free Mind is no longer dominant because it's not as strong anymore as previous years. Crystal Ball has a redesign that the first dispelling attempt in each friendly magic phase has a +2 dispelling modifier. I think that is going to be nearly an auto-include because it is incredibly potent, I feel. It's nearly an extra dispel dice. It's each friendly magic phase. I think this is going to be quite a game changer, to be honest. And it's going to be picked way more often. It really helps against those armies that try to dish out a lot of spells on low amounts of dice. So, for example, Highborn Elves, Undying Dynasties with the Sacred Hourglass, and Demon Legions. Maybe also Saurian Ancients with a very proficient Quartal. So they are going to struggle a little bit more if you field the Crystal Ball. And then the Crown of Autocracy for this is a big one. For me, this one is a big one, I mean. So it's a complete redesign, so we don't get a +1 discipline bonus anymore. It cannot be taken by models with not a leader, so not on your assassin from the Dread Elves. The model gains commanding presence with its range always set to 3 inches. If the model already had commanding presence, the range has increased by 3 inches up to a maximum of 18. That is way different from what it used to be. I think it's a good change because the previous iteration that just gave you +1 discipline pushed a lot of lists into designs where you had a Wizard Master that was your general. This does mean that for some armies it's going to be a struggle to have a decent general and a Wizard Master. So I'm looking at you, Ogre Khans. This is a tough one for you guys. But I think, well, the redesign of a book or maybe some other alterations in the future, it's going to be fine. I think the basis of the item was not good. So that this is just a really good change because you can't really design something like Vermin Swarm if the Crown of Autocracy is in the Arcane Compendium, because then introducing new discipline mechanics are going to be affected by the item. Then we go to spells. So there's a couple of changes to the different lores. We have an Alchemy, Word of Iron. The boosted version goes to 18-inch range, so that's a shorter version, and the normal version stays the same. Molten Copper gets D3+4 hits because it still used to be the spell that nobody took. Druidism, the attribute can only be cast once per phase. Healing Waters has some extra range. Spirit of the Wood has less range, I think, and the spell is made universal, so you can... I thought that was the spell that puts you in the wood, but I'm not sure, actually. So I actually don't know. I'll let other people talk about that one. So Occultism, this is for me the biggest change in the spell selection, and that is that you swap Breath of Corruption and Pentagram of Pain. So Pentagram of Pain is going to be your number 4 spell, and Breath of number 4, right? Yeah, I believe so. And Breath of Corruption is going to be your number 1. So apprentices have suddenly access to Breath of Corruption. Breath of Corruption is one of the best spells in the game because you have a magic missile with 2d6 strength, 3 hits basically, and toxic, so you ignore armor. It's useful against monsters, against characters, cowboys. It's incredibly useful. I think this is a really big change because suddenly it's viable also to just include a Occultism Wizard Apprentice as a anti-armor tool basically, because it's just really good. The Rotmodin gets a 6-inch extra range because it used to be 18 inches, and I think, and not that big of an effect actually. I think Fireball being replicable is quite cool. You have to have them on still different mages, but you can cast as many fireballs as you like. I think that goes with the fluff generally and in lore of fantasy games of fireballs just being flung everywhere. Embers, Enveloping Embers is going to be 9+ to cast. Blaze is going to go from an 18-inch range strength 6 to a 24-inch strength 5, so a little bit less damage maybe, but more range. I think it makes it better actually. Avocation Dance, the single version is going to go to 18 inches and it's a 12-inch move, so that is a big improvement there, because it used to be an 8-inch move, I believe. 12 inches is definitely way different. So it's maybe finally worth a spell taking. Witchcraft Twisted Effigy is going to be 6+, 8+, that's fine. Cosmology Eyes on Fire is going to be 8+, it used to be 7+, I think. Thaumaturgy Speaking in Tongues is also going to be different. So this is a redesign. Friendlies reroll discipline tests and enemies cannot reroll discipline tests. I don't know if this rules out like one instance of a reroll. I mean, by now you have multiple sources of rerolls. And I would like to have some clarification on that. Like, for example, Obsidian Guard. Are they still called Obsidian Guard? I believe so. Obsidian Guard and Dread Elves. They have the Will of the Senate rule that lets them reroll panic checks. If they are within 12 inches of the BSB, they can also reroll their discipline tests. So would that cancel out, and can you still reroll your panic test, or can you not at all? I think that is an interesting one. Yeah, I think it would be interesting to clarify that. Then the Arcane Compendium price changes. So we have this list of changes. I'm just gonna pick out the ones that stand out to me. Stalker Standard going to 35. I didn't know it needed an upgrade basically. Banner of Discipline becoming more cheap. That it's getting better and better. Making your unit immune to panic for 30 points, including the standard. It's really good. But then again, it's usually the banner slot that you wanna spend on something else. So it's basically for support units. It's really great to have just Banner of Discipline at 20 points. Crown of Autocracy at 30 points now instead of 65 because the effect just changed tremendously. You see that a lot of stuff actually goes down in price, and that is quite funny because then it enables some more other builds on your heroes. I like Cleansing Light also going to 15 so that we have an item that goes to 15 points. Lightning Vambraces, Crystal Ball, Dragon Staff, Obsidian Rock going to 30. That makes sense because everybody took it. So then let's go to the Dread Elves. Dread Elves have been out for a while now. They're in the 4th alpha, I believe, and the 5th alpha is going to hit soon. So we don't have any design changes because they will be covered in their respective forums and threads and whatever. So let's just look through the list and then see if there's anything that really stands out. Like the Kaidran's Pennon or Sadran's Pennon. From 70 points to 80 points, this is a banner that gives you Swift Stride, Scent of Blood, and that is just really good on Dread Elves, because then you have infantry that can suddenly get to Advance 7 and Swift Stride. That's good. With a BSB, you can go to Advance 8 on the charge. Then we have the Mask of the Warcrow, which needed a price increase. That is fair. There's a lot of price increases for the magic items. The Elven Horse more expensive. Beastmaster gets some kind of cheaper mounts. Manticore goes up in points, but this is also paired probably with a design change so that it gets Resilience 5 again. Blackmane Pegasus goes down. That's cool. I believe Blackmane Pegasuses are actually going to be playable, which would be cool. I mean, if you compare the Blackmane Pegasus to the Manticore, the Blackmane Pegasus has 2 attacks at strength 4. It has been spoiled that it gets Devastating Charge +1 strength, and that it gets Hard Target 1. And the Manticore goes to 4 attacks, strength 5 with Resilience 5, I believe 4 hit points. So you're paying 125 points for 1 extra hit point, 1 extra resilience, no hard target. And also the Manticore cannot join units, whereas the Pegasus can. And I think that is quite a big deal, actually. So I think I'm in camp Pegasus now, but I think that there's going to be a divide with people leaning more towards the Manticore and people leaning more towards the Pegasus. Temple Legate base cost goes down. That surprises me, to be honest. But okay, the Battle Oracle and the Warsmith, they go up in price. No, well, like Outcast goes up, the Master upgrade goes up. But this is going to be something that you see all across the books, that the Wizard Apprentice options basically go down in price, and the Wizard Adept and Master, they go up in price. What else do we have? There's not a lot. Yeah, the Legion Auxiliaries base cost increases by more than 10%. I was taught to evaluate these price changes in percentage points, basically, because then you get a better feel of how much it relatively is. And more than 10% changes is basically more than the algorithm, I believe, changes naturally. So in that sense, it's really a design change that the Legion Auxiliaries should go up more, and I think it's a good choice, yeah. Obsidian Guard more expensive, Judicators cheaper because nobody took them because the Obsidian Guard were better. Harpies, additional models, they're still going to go down a lot, I think, over the years. Divine Altar base cost goes up, no surprise to me. And then, yeah, otherwise, basically just minor point changes. The Hydra goes up in points and the Mist Leviathan goes down in points. That's funny. That's funny to me. Now we go to Empire of Sunstyle. So there's one non-price change here, which is that the Exemplar Flame for Wizards only is no longer dominant, and this is going to free up the item. Hooray! I've been waiting for this for a long time. Then otherwise we have the Caradon's Course, and it goes down again in points. It doesn't really do anything in the list. Shield of Voland says here that it goes to 13 points, but I don't know why that would be the case. Locket of Senna goes up in points. You really can't put anything else anymore on a character that has Locket of Senna, except for the Alchemist Alloy if you have like a 100-point equipment slot character. What else? Well, I'm just gonna ignore all the 5-point price changes basically, because that is so minimal that it doesn't really matter too much. The Imperial Prince for the Marshal goes down. It's just too expensive. It's still too expensive basically, because I believe Line of Sunstyle nowadays is also 125 points or maybe 150. But the Knight Commander is just a way better chassis to take it rather than the Marshal. It is quite funny on a Griffin though, but then he becomes quite expensive and he also becomes a general with the Imperial Prince. So then you might as well take a Knight Commander. But then, yeah, if you want to play him on foot, then but why would you want to play Light of Sunstyle on foot? The Dragon goes down in points. No surprise. The Prelate goes down in points. That is surprising. But it is a 5-point difference, so I wouldn't discuss it anymore, I promised, right? You can see that the Wizard base cost goes down, and then the Wizard Adept and the Wizard Master goes up. That is basically common for all the books, or at least what I saw. Maybe it's to incentivize a bit more taking Wizard Apprentices, and I can understand that because you didn't really see them. The Knightly Orders, they go down 2 points per model. Apparently people have been playing them too much. And otherwise, this is quite a big one, the Knights of the Sun Griffin, going down 15 points per model for additional models. You still have to buy the lands for them, because if you want to play a bigger unit, then you probably want to upgrade them with the lands. Flagellants go down 1 point per model. That does make a difference on 30 model units. Steam Tank goes up again. Mortar goes down. Mortar goes down is cool. Imperial Rocketeer goes to -5 points. Maybe they didn't want to adjust the price of artillery and just introduce negative points into the game. But this is fair, because the Imperial Rocketeer, you just put it on the table basically, and you're surprised if it does something at any point in the game. And I don't understand it, because why would the Mortar decrease in price and then the Imperial Rocketeer as well? Because for me, Mortar is basically an Imperial Rocketeer that is better. Sure, you only have one strength 6 hit with the Mortar, I mean, yeah, but otherwise you still get a 6x6 or a 5x5 template to go with it. And the Imperial Rocketeer has more shots, but it only has strength 5, so yeah, maybe if you play Flaming Swords. Then the Vampire Covenant. So there's a lot of changes here. I'm once again going to skip over the 5-point changes in upgrades. What stands out is the Strigoi bloodline going down 30 points. Apparently we didn't play enough Strigoi. And then otherwise, what do we have? Bestial Belt goes up in points, whilst Strigoi goes down, and that is quite funny. The base cost of a vampire count goes down, and I think this will continue for some time still. The Adept and the Master goes up, as with the other armies. And then, yeah, there's still quite some changes. The Apprentice on the Courtier goes down, the Adept goes up, and the Master goes up. Same for the Necromancer, basically. I think having a couple of Necromancer apprentices now makes sense rather than to have a single adept, because the upgrade is nearly as expensive as getting a new Necromancer, and you mostly want to cast a rise with them anyway. So you can still get the summoning staff, that which not the Unholy Tome, but the other one, Necromancer staff, whatever. Because it's still cheaper than another Necromancer. Yeah, Fell Rate goes down again. Fell Rate Monsters Revenant goes down again. This guy is now at 235 points. I mean, if I would scale it against the Chimera, which is 200 points, I would say that basically that's a tough one, because Fell Rate, the Monster's Revenant has 4 attacks at strength 5. The Wraith has 3 attacks at strength 5. So damage output wise, it's better than a Chimera without any rider. However, it cannot march if it's outside of General Bubble. And the Chimera has a 20-inch move. There's a lot of people that think Chimeras are not good. But then again, you use Chimeras mostly as a heavy support piece and as chaff. A Fell Wraith has 7 strength 5 attacks, sure. However, it cannot march on its own, and it cannot flee. It does cause terror too, though, so that is useful. 235 points. And then you have to buy the great weapon, I think. Zombies go down in additional models because nobody takes additional models. Skeletons also goes down in additional models because people take them, but they're not good enough, I guess, then. And ghouls are still more than twice the points of skeletons. Good. I don't know why ghouls are so expensive. 15 points per model. Bat Swarms go down, Barrow Guard base cost goes up, and the additional models also go up. This is a surprising one to me. I think it makes sense if you look at the weapon option upgrades, because the halberd goes to 2 points, the great weapon goes to 3 points, and the shield goes to 0 points. So if you take 15 guys, that is the base cost. Basically, your base cost goes up without any equipment. Well, with a shield now, because you're going to take them for 0 points, unless you take something else. If you take a halberd or a great weapon, you don't get the shield, so you don't get the ranged protection, basically. But right now, like it used to be 15 Barrow Guard, with shields would have been 190 points, and now they would be 175. So that is it's in all cases. No, it's for the halberd, it's the same points in the end, and for the other two, it's 1 point per model cheaper. On a unit of 15, it doesn't really make a difference, and on a unit of 30, it's 30 points difference. Yeah, great. I think they should have knocked off another point. Then the Baronites, they go down a little bit. Casts go to a nice round number. That is nice. I must say, there's a lot of round numbers in this list now. Like the Baronites, they go to 35 per additional model. Ghasts go to 90 per additional model. Barguard additional models go to 21. I had expected for the Dark Coach to go up in points because everybody takes them, but it's already 465 or so it is already quite expensive for what it does. but it's still a good piece. Yeah, that is more or less it. There's not a lot of surprising stuff. Winged Reaper's base cost goes down 20 points, and the additional models go up 10 points. So for a unit of 2 additional models, so 4 of them, the price is the same. They are expensive for what they do. They are. But then again, Vampire Spawn small unit goes down. Vampire Spawns stay more or less the same. I don't understand. But it's maybe it's me. Then Warriors of the Dark Gods, the last army that I'm gonna review because that's the last army I play also. So there's some non-price changes. You're only gonna have 2 war dices per army. I think this is maybe to prevent you from creating a wall of war dices or something. However, if you put, I think, yeah, there was this thing where you put 2 war dices, 2 combat characters in the front rank of your unit, and then you put your mage also on a war dice, and you can put them in the 3rd rank. It is creative. It is cool. It is. I can imagine that it's not the way it's intended. Feldrax, only 12 models per army. That's a shame. That's a shame. Giant must pick a weapon, but that is for all giants in all the books now. New army-wide special rule as part of universal rules. You don't have a legendary beast category anymore. Everything goes to special, and you have legendary beast X. The sum of legendary beast is restricted to 1 per 750 army points. And then there's different rules. So Exalted Herald, Feldrug Ancestor, Feldrug Eldar, and Forsaken One, they count as 2 legendary beasts. So 1 per 750 army points makes that you can have 6 points in legendary beasts. So you can have, for example, an Exalted Herald and 2 Forsaken Ones. And that's it. Behemoth, Chimera, and Dragon gain legendary beasts. Oh, the character mounts only. So if you feel the Chimera, then you don't. And the Giant gains legendary beast 1. I don't know if this is an upgrade that or a change that makes sense to me. I mean, Warriors right now, there's a lot of people that say that it's not playable as an infantry army, unless you take a Helmall, and I think I agree with that because the Helmall really boosts the army if you only take infantry. And cavalry armies, I don't really trust in them too much because you always run into the issue of how to break steadfast. And then you have beasts for warriors and single models, and they really shine as a playstyle. So this restriction is a bit weird in the sense that Warriors of the Dark Gods has been quite high ranking in the tiers, but it's been dropping down the tiers towards the middle, I feel like, and now you get a bit of an extra modifier, negative modifier restriction that will limit your beast builds, basically your single model gigantic beasts. But then again, also the question is still how much it does limit your list building. So I think one of the few builds that you cannot do anymore is double Exalted Herald and double Feldrug Elder, and otherwise not a lot has changed, especially since the Feldrug Ancestor also increases the restriction of legendary beasts by 1. So then you can have 7 legendary beast points on 4,500 points. I think it's just fine. I mean, if you go for a dragon and a behemoth and 2 Feldrug Elders, I did that once. I played 2 behemoths, so then I would have been over 1 beast. But I mean, a dragon, 2 behemoths, and 2 Feldrug Elders, it also sounds a bit excessive, maybe. You could still play, however, a behemoth, another behemoth, a dragon, and 3 giants. I mean, it's close enough, right? Then in addition, we still have the price changes for the Warriors of the Dark Gods. It's a book with a lot of entries, so there's also a lot of different price changes in this book. Once again, I'm just going to skip over the ones that are just low amounts of point changes. The Exalted Herald goes up 30 points. This thing is becoming increasingly more expensive. I think at 860 points, it's not really worth it anymore. Already 830 is too much, basically. However, it does play quite flexible, and that is quite nice. But I mean, 860 is just too much. Otherwise, yeah, the different favors of the Chosen Lord, they change a bit. I don't think there's going to be too much change. I think that the choice of Chosen Lord favor mostly depends on what the warriors have in your list, because if you want to field them in the warriors, then you have to have the same mark. Otherwise, the Skyted Sky Wheel goes down 25 points. That is quite impressive. I think that may be an interesting choice now. I don't know if it can actually join units. If it can, then it definitely is a nice choice, because it's a good alternative to Demonic Wings. So it's now cheaper than Demonic Wings. So that is interesting, maybe. So you can be singled out from your unit if you're on a Sky Wheel, I think. And maybe it's... Yeah, I think that's the case. So you can still get shot out of your unit. However, you don't take up the slot of any of the other upgrades. So you can play a Greed Chosen Lord with Skyted Sky Wheel with Anthropic Aura. That sounds cool. But then your armor save just lacks a little bit. Chimera goes up in points as expected, probably. And otherwise, yeah, the adept for the sorcerer goes up again, the base cost goes down, the master also goes up. So that is what we saw with all the other books. Barbarian Chief goes down, Shadow Chaser up. I think the hero section has a lot of stuff that you expected already. No surprises there. Lust obviously goes up 2 points, from 4 points to 6 points on the warriors. Greed goes up a point because it was still kind of popular. Pride goes down. Sloth goes up. That could have been the same, I think. And Wrath goes down. But it's only 1 point. Like the positive changes, like the decreases in price are only 1 point changes, and then Lust goes up 2 points. That is basically the reason people took Lust, was that you could fit in 3 units of 300 points and have fleeing core. Maybe now Barbarians are being played. Are Barbarians going to be cheaper? Barbarians additional models 1 point cheaper, paired weapons 1 point cheaper. That is interesting. And then throwing weapons go to 1.5 point. Okay. So 2 points cheaper on Barbarians with paired weapons. These units are going to die, however. That's nice. Warrior Knights, they go up a bit. Gluttony goes down again. It's going to stay the same. The Chosen go down a bit, but not enough. Greed goes up 3 points for Chosen. Yeah, I'm not too enthusiastic about this one, to be honest. I mean, I think there could have been some price decreases in areas where the book struggled, and that's not really what has happened, except for the Barbarians. But Barbarians they still face the issue of being 25mm infantry with just not enough damage output, or resilience 3 and a 6 of armor save. That's also a problem. You have to take care of either of these problems to make them viable, and that hasn't happened. Yeah, so that is the balance upgrade. Some interesting changes. I would like to hear your opinions about it, and I'll see you the next time.